Now we're going to open up the floor to questions from the floor.
Yes, my name is Robert Rice. They repealed the Rockefeller drug law and they incorporated drug court. And we have it here in Rochelle since 2002, 2003, and I work closely with Judge Shear on it. How would you incorporate the drug court program and drug court, and what do you know about substance abuse?
Oh, well, what do you mean? I don't know what you mean quite by how would I incorporate drug court?
Drug court.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, drug court has a history, as people know, that there is actually a drug court alternative here in New Rochelle. It's actually statewide. There's actually a lot of work that a lot of people put in for a long time to help develop the drug courts, which are alternatives, alternative ways of working with people that are coming into court charged with criminal, possessory, and addiction issues in court. I would not having sat on the bench here, but having watched now Judge Rice, who still sits on the bench, who's a wonderful jurist, and Judge Carbone, who will be the only two people left when Judge Shear leaves, who have had experience on that. I would say that from my experience, I would totally, in the beginning at least, defer to those two judges, especially because, as I said, they know what they're doing and how the court is working. I have had clients also in drug court programs, not here, but because I'm a little bit old school, I've taken my clients, as we used to in the old days, and have to figure out alternatives with their families, with their pastors, with their hospitals and their caregivers. I think that the drug court is enormously successful, and you obviously know firsthand from having gone to those graduations what an emotional time it is when those young people, and not always young, right? I mean, sometimes you get some middle agers who've never had a break in their life, who have finally gotten clean, who have finally found the ability to stand up and feel some support, feel some help, and feel the integrity that all of us want and that all of us need to feel to be whole human beings in the community. I embrace it. I think drug court is a wonderful alternative. I would love to see it continue, and based on the numbers of people that I see in that court, I think that there's a tremendous need for it. So, and I can't remember, I'm sorry, part two of your question was?
What's your experience?
I have a lot of experience with the substance abuse. Like I said, I have, since I was a young lawyer, my cases, again, when you're working with people in the indigent community, disadvantaged community, I've seen since I was a young lawyer, heroin addiction, crack addiction, teas and blues, use of too much marijuana, alcohol, nicotine. I mean, nicotine and alcohol and coffee aren't, illegal, but I've seen a lot of wacky stuff done by people who are a little too high on coffee, a little too smoked up on cigarettes, and a little too drunk without getting behind the wheel of the car. But I have seen not only my own clients, but my families of my clients torn apart by the illness of one member of the family, because everybody who knows anybody who's ever been involved with drugs, using them or selling them, it brings an enormous amount of pain and danger, especially when I was in DC and I was representing some of these young men, because it was almost always young men, except there were a couple young women who were being caught up in what they used to call the muling, where they would take some poor woman who needed $5,000, put her on a train, she'd come up on Amtrak, they'd be sitting there waiting for her to get her off, grab that big bag of cocaine off of her, and then throw her in federal prison, right, and down to a little bit. But I have seen the effects, the deleterious effects, not only in individuals who are caught up in the use, but also in the sale of these things. I have seen the violence. I have sat with too many people at too many funerals in my life who have lost children and family members to the violence associated with this stuff. So I have very strong feelings on anything that is violent and dangerous and that tears our children apart, our families apart, our communities apart. And that includes enforcement of laws that also pull our young men in disproportionate numbers out of the community and devastates communities.
Dr. Carla Woolbright, hi, Dr. Rio. I know that you we all know that the judgeship is not supposed to be political, but you're running in a primarily Democratic district here. I'm just wondering what kinds of things would you say to people about your candidacy on the Republican line in the Democratic district?
Thank you. That's a polite way of asking a question. I've been asked in very impolite ways a couple of times. As I say, first of all, I think that everybody has to understand there are political races going on. Those races for the political positions have to do with people that we are all going to be electing to enact law for us. They have to and will take positions, and there maybe are partisan positions that are suited to those types of races. A judicial race is not a political race. Does anybody go to their doctor and say, listen, I know you're the best, but are you a Democrat? You go to your minister and say, you know, Reverend, you've moved me, but are you a Republican? It doesn't matter. Only thing that matters on the bench, this is 10 years. November 2nd is going to come and go. There will be one opportunity for everybody in this city to come out and pick who you think is going to be the best person to be in that courtroom on a day-to-day basis, knowing the law, knowing this community, and not just getting into this for a political opportunity. Regardless of the parties that have supported me, I'm asking for your vote for this city. The time came when Judge Scher decided to leave. I did not go looking for a political position. I did not start running for something just because I needed something to do. This was an opportunity, and you know everybody in here has had those when you do not know sometimes an opportunity just it presents itself. You're not looking for it. It happens. This is not a political job. You don't need, you should not know whether a judge is a Democrat, a Republican, independent, how they worship, where they worship. It should have nothing to do with it. This is a place that are the halls of justice. This is decisively, distinctly not a political place. And I would say to everybody in here, I know, I was told in the beginning, 2-1 Democrats or whatever it is. I really don't care about that. I want your vote because you believe in me. And you want what's best for the city, and you think I can deliver that on the bench. And I promise you, I will. So that's all I can say. You know, vote for me because you believe in me. And vote for me because this is what you think is good for the city.
My question is to you, is fines across the board for everyone, is that law, or does that become personal? Because what would be your intake on that? Because there's a lot of concern, because it's not done to everyone, but minorities are being hit very hard with that, as opposed to anyone else that comes in, their fine will be much lesser on the same thing, but not as high as theirs. So I'm just trying to find out, is that something personal that a judge do, or is that designated by law that is across the board? Like, what would be your intake?
All right, what I can say is this. First of all, my experience here in this court is that I haven't seen that, because if you're talking about racially or gender discriminatorily enforced fines, I swear I have not seen that. If you have seen that or know of that, then that is, again, one of those areas where you are a member of the public and you have and should file a complaint immediately, if that's what you really have seen. Now, in the case, there are two types of fines. There are fines that are mandatory, and I think everybody in here has gotten some kind of ticket, cell phone violation. I know one or two faces I've seen, cell phone violation. I'll pull out my own mirror and show you a cell phone violation. Of course, I was innocent. But I had my earbuds on, he didn't see them. But in any event, there are some things that are just fixed by law. There are certain fines. You plead guilty, and they say, well, here, you don't do this. Here's what it is. It's a $150 fine. Now the state, and everybody's got to get their little piece. There's a little surcharge. Those things are just as a matter of law. There's nothing a judge can do about it. In cases where you have criminal cases, there are sometimes discretionary areas, and again, my experience in the New Rochelle City Court, I have to tell you, I love these judges. I have not seen anybody here who has, in my opinion, and what I've seen, use a fine to unfairly deny process, due process, and fairness to any litigant. If you ever saw that anywhere, a complaint should be filed, if you really did see that, because that is that's inappropriate on the bench. It absolutely is an intolerable thing. That is the last place you should see injustices. But I have not seen it, but as I say, there are avenues for redress always against a public official.
Well, is there any more questions?
Hitting on what Vince said,
Okay.
like if you get a parking ticket, you know, I don't know if the judge does this rule on this, but if you get a parking ticket and you go up to fight it, you know, you go to the window and say, listen, I got a picture of the sign here, you know, and no, you gotta go see the judge. And you walk in that room and there's 70 people sitting there. You know, judge, you know, you missed the whole day of work. Is there anything that you can do as the judge to like speed up that process? Like, all right, we could hear as many, you know,
Yeah.
set one day forward, or like he said, like maybe night court on tickets.
Yeah, well,
So, you know, it says on the
yeah.
back, you gotta be there 9:30 in the
Pay the
morning.
ticket or show up in court,
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically it. Well, what I can say is this, and it sort of goes to the questions we were asking about before, what makes me also qualified. I can also multitask like crazy. You can ask my friends. So I think that I understand how people's time, I'm watching people in Portland 3, they're nuts, they're tearing their hair out, they don't want to be here, they're losing time, the windows are clogged up. I think that part of the judge's responsibility here would be to say, look, there are a lot of people out there, and I've been practicing law here for a long time. I can say, you know, one day, God willing, when I'm on the bench, you know what, we need to do something here. We need to expand this in some way, or if we need more judges, or we need more time, or we need a larger facility, whatever it is. That's a very legitimate, and it's a proper place for people that are on the bench to say, we need to address this in such a way because we are here as the servants of the community. So what can we do? So if there is something, I know these judges work very hard to do what they can. And there are only 2.5 judges. I mean, Judge Carbone is a whole human being, but he's part-time. So the workload is enormous, but I think that's a legitimate issue. And I think that that every judge should be paying attention to what's happening. And particularly because people shouldn't be getting frustrated or feel like they've been blackmailed into having to pay the ticket because it's taken too long to stand there. I mean, there's a lot of makes you upset. If you're like, I can't afford, I'm gonna pay the $100 because I can't stand here and lose a half a day's work. So I get it, and I think that's a legitimate area for judges to watch. That goes to the administration of justice. I think that's fair. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. It's time for your closing statement, so.
I hope I've given you enough food for thought. I hope you feel comfortable with me. I hope you understand me better. I hope you'll take my palm card, and especially I hope that on November 2nd, Cynthia Lobo, you can't pull the thing anymore. I think you're blackening out circles or some sort of thing. Anyway, I hope you get in there and figure out the machines, and please vote for me. Godspeed. Buenas noches. Thank you.